Hi, everybody. My name's Corey O'Sullivan Bowser. I've been dancing with Ann Arbor Morris since 1996, and I'm a founding member of the Quality, which started in 2008-ish. It was ephemeral for a while. And this workshop is going to be, it came out of a question from the original How to Sing Loud workshop, which is how do you a go about taking a song or a tune and turning it and adapting it and turning it into a dance. So that's what we're doing today. And the song I will eventually be talking about is Arsonist's Lullaby by Hosier. That was a lot of buys. Arsonist's Lullaby by Hosier. And I'm going to talk you through some of the process and the timeline of how I developed it into a Molly dance. Full disclosure, the actual dance is only about 80% done because we typically iron out the last stretch in practice, and we've had one since uh, we just recently all felt vaccinated enough to dance Molly. So before I get into the that particular song, I want to talk a little bit about Molly in general, in case anybody has forgotten what it feels like during the pandemic. Give me 1 second to get my screen share happening. All right. So Modern Molly, I have graphics. So things that we're going to talk about for turning a pop song into a dance is what works, what has not worked, how to do it, and some additional notes. So the first one that I want to take a look at is a song that is pretty traditional Molly at this point called Biker Hill. And the reasons why it works. It's in 4/4 time. This is my my color-coded notation that I use for Molly. I find it to be much more helpful for dancers than like having sheet music, because it illustrates where the beats are in relation to the words, and I find people cue off of those more than you would expect them to. But yeah, it's in 4/4 time. The verses are 4 measures each. The vocal cadence is regular. You can do a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Like it's that knuckle dragging beat. And it also works really comfortably in like the 55 to 65 beats per minute range, which is what I find to be the best for Molly, at least in the style that the Quality uses. And I have the first verse and the chorus on the next page here. And oh yeah, no, it's all on the same page here. I use blues for the verses and pinks for the choruses just because it helps me keep track of what's going on, and yellow for all of the other on beats and the counts. And I do include all of them, even the ones that aren't voiced. In this one, all of the beats have sounds. There are some others where there are some on beats that have either a held note or silence. And I find that to be a really useful teaching tool to cross-reference beats, words, people who do what the tune tells them to, stuff like that. So I'm going to sing just this little stretch of this so that you can see, now that you know what you're looking for, what it looks like with the notation. So, if I had another penny, I would have another Jill. I would have the piper play the bonny lass of Biker Hill. Biker Hill and Walker Shore, call ye lads forevermore. Biker Hill and Walker Shore, call ye lads forevermore. So this is the thing that works. This is what it looks like. It's pretty ideal in most ways as far as the criteria that you're looking for a song to turn into a dance. Now let's look at something that didn't work. And I'm very, very sad that I was not able to make this one work. It's a song called Icy Fire by Ed Sheeran, and you may have seen it at the very end of one of the Hobbit movies. I think it was the first one.
It was the second one.
It was the second one. Thank you. Anthony, that when I first heard it, it gave me all of the good feelings about like a folky classic waiting to happen. There's this keening intro that you can use as a walk on, and it just felt like it was destined to be a dance. But the more that I tried to push it into a shape that would work, the harder it snapped back. Um, and there are a few reasons why it didn't want to work. And not all of them are deal breakers on their own, but let's look at it. I'm going to do just the intro, a verse, and a chorus so that you can feel what it looks like. And I'm actually going to skip the second verse and go intro, verse, chorus if you're looking at the graphic. But I'm going to get my fancy little metronome out because I feel like that will help things. Oh, actually, no, I don't want to do that yet. So, oh, misty eye of the mountain below, keep careful watch on my brother's souls, and should the sky be filled with fire and smoke, keep watching over during suns. If this is to end in fire, then we shall all burn together. Watch the flames climb high into the night, crying out, Father, oh, hold strong, and we will watch the flames burn on and on the mountainside. Desolation comes upon the sky. I see fire inside the mountains. I see fire burning the trees. I see fire hollowing souls. I see fire, blood in the breeze, and I hope that you'll remember me. So there are a lot of things going on here. First of all, the structure, if you look at how it breaks down into verse, choruses, bridges, outros, the structure is not ideal at all, even if I cut out the instrumental breaks when you break down from the recording. It's A, B, B, C, B, C, D, E, with B and C being the identifiable verse and chorus. And like, you could conceivably do the D and the E as like alternate chorus tunes or something, but you can see that's already like getting messy. And then there's that the chorus has 4 main lines, but then a 5th line tag that is in some and not in others. And the easiest way to get around that, if that was the only issue, is to just use it all the time, which you could do. And then those are things that I would call surmountable issues. But what, like, for example, Katie Cruel has 7 measures per phrase, and it works just fine. The Quality, which is a dance that we do, is written in 9/8 time, and we invented a step to make it work, and that is okay. And I'm sure there's some other examples, but what actually in the end ended up nerfing this song and making it not something that we could make work was the syncopation and the tempo. So the original recording was in 76 beats per minute, and which I tapped out with a metronome app that I have linked in the resource sheet. And the tune is very fiddly and syncopated, and by the time I hammered it into like a knuckle dragging beat and slowed it down enough to dance to, it had lost like 60% of its gut, and there was just not enough left to fill the spaces. The vocal runs that work in the original track fell apart, and it just like wasn't a song anymore. So, and additionally, once I broke it down, it was just so bloody long. It's 10 bars per verse and chorus, which once you spread that over like, you know, 3 or 4 verses is a lot. And I would say that any song could overcome one or two, maybe even three of the different difficulties that I mentioned here. But this one just had all of them, and we had to let it go. So now that I've kind of covered what does work, old and works, and what's new and doesn't work, let's turn our attention to the main event. Ooh, here, I'll come back to me for a second. So, story time. It all started the 19th of October, 2020. I was sewing and listening to music, and the player I was using served me a song called Arsonist's Lullaby by Hosier, which I had never heard. I immediately liked it, and partway through I realized that not only did it feel like it would make a good dance, but it had the golden ratio. 8-measure verses and choruses all in 4/4 time, which is a good start. I listened to it right away again and then went on with my day. And 3 hours later, I couldn't think about anything else. So I knew the vocal cadence would need to be reworked a little bit. But I started humming through the recording and looked at the lyrics a few times to try to get a feel for getting the tune into my brain. And I did this a couple of times a day and spent the next few weeks trying it out in the car on the way to work. My car is my safe space to sing loudly and poorly and experiment and try to figure things out and get it into my brains and all of that thing. Now, I want you guys to listen to it sort of in its original form, but for copyright goblin reasons, because this is eventually going to go to YouTube, that I'm going to not play the original track. I'm going to do like an inverse karaoke track version. Give me 1 second here to set this. And I have the Soundbrenner metronome app on my phone that I've got set up to the correct beat. And I'm going to sing through the first verse and a chorus in the style of the original to show you sort of the timing where it existed, and then we'll look at what we're going to do with it. Let me know if you guys, somebody give me a thumbs up if you can hear this. Okay. So let's see. I'll start on this one. When I was a child, I heard voices. Some would sing and some would scream. You'll soon find you have few choices. I learned the voices died in me. All you have is your fire and the place you need to reach. Don't you ever tame your demons. Always keep them on a leash. So that double whap at the end is the 7/8. So there was that much empty space at the end of that phrase. So now you can kind of see like that it feels like it's got good bones, but we need to do a little bit of something to help it work as a dance. About a week later, I started working through the lyrics in my sort of color-coded quasi notation that we looked at earlier. And I originally had some grand designs about trying to do some visual representation of how I made some changes, but I think that probably actually just singing that bit again with the new timing might be a little bit more illustrative. um, or I'll do like a couple lines and then come back. So um, let me let's take a look at the lyrics and go through that preparation process, and then I'll talk about the timing changes when I get to where it's visually noted. Share screen. Share. Okay, so moving on here. So the first thing that I do is to prepare the text. So you want to either transcribe the lyrics or grab them from the internet somewhere. Writing them down yourself will get them into your brain faster, but you know, it takes longer to write out, and it depends if you're working with accents or something. You may not totally be able to do that. But that I dump them into a Word doc somewhere and strip all of the formatting immediately. So what you see on the left is exactly what I pulled off of Lyric Find. And you can see that the spacing is a little weird, and there's different sizes of font and blah, blah, blah. So you want to strip all of the formatting, and in Google Docs, that is just under format and then clear formatting. And that means that then you can move things around to make them more readable for your purposes. Now, this is also the point where I check for typos, for misheard lyrics from somebody else's transcription. If you desire to do any sort of gender swapping things or other word swaps, I would highly recommend typing out, let's see, any like digits. Like if there's a number 2, I would highly recommend typing the word out. It just makes it easier in the long run. And the other thing that I do at this point is replacing any words that maybe, especially if you're looking at something traditional or something modern pop, words that we don't wish to use in public or at all. Figure out how you would like to make those adjustments. So then the next part is marking what the sections are to see if you need to move anything around. So like in this one, the first column is as it appears in the recording. And then the second one is how I broke it up to make it work a little bit better for a dance. I basically shoved an extra chorus in there so that we had an alternating format. And so now I've got something that's nice, A, B, A, B, A, B. And again, I've got color coding because I like colors. They help me see things. Next step is going to be to make it march. So this is going to be noting first how it exists, but removing delays, syncopation, so that the sounds happen on beats that are useful for dancers. You may have to stomp through things a few times. You've all seen me, I'm sure, singing and stomping to find the beat and keep it. And I find that this portion, you can do it on a computer, but for me personally, it's less cumbersome to print it out in large text and do it by hand with a highlighter and then come back and do this part afterwards. Just because, I don't know, I'm using a trackpad instead of a mouse and it's easier for me. So this is going to result in flattening the style, some of the style on the piece, which I've talked about in yesterday's workshop. If you've got something with a lot of instrumentation that's supporting the frame of the song, then you might, and if the vocals are a little bit airier, then you might need to push some of that structure into the vocal part of the arrangement. And doing this is probably going to expose some gaps in the arrangement that are going to need to be filled. Let's see. So if you look here, can you see my mouse or no? Okay. When we were listening to the original version of how it's recorded, you see you've got all of these spaces here where this is an on beat with nothing happening or nothing changing. And I've found that you can go about 4 beats of holding a note. And actually, let me pop into the next screen. You can go about 4 beats of holding the note or having silence before the dancers start to miss you and you need to do something. And so you can do 2 things. You can respace some things. So right here, in this line, I actually stretched out the, rather than going, you'll soon find you have few choices, I went, you'll soon find you have few choices. So that gives more landmarks that can be used by the dancers. And then the other thing is filling in the space with like diddles and nannies. In this case, none of them are diddles or nannies. There's a hey yeah and a down inside, which seems to make sense within the theming of the song. So if you're not sure what to do with these, I often will lift like musical hooks from the instrumentation of a track. So in the original recording, there's a lot of like, it's a very like stark kick drum beat with this heavily distorted like guitar riffing of things like that. That's where the space is actually filled. So I took some of the tuning for those diddles from that thing. And let's see, you can also redistribute like cramped phrasing. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. My notes and the slides are slightly differently ordered from each other. Yeah, so I did some extensions. I pulled out and extended because this always keep them on a leash is very like, always keep them on a leash. It's very short and I sort of spread it out. Next step is to make it pretty. And I do this because when I'm trying to sing and keep the beat, I need to lower all the other cognitive load as much as I possibly can. So I will actually write down like whatever I'm using as a pickup line at the beginning, put the title on it, choose a font that's easily legible for you, and then I try to get it onto the page as large as I can without running any lines into 2 lines. Now, depending on your eyesight, maybe that means you print this in landscape. I'm not that old yet. And then I add in page breaks to make sure that no chunks, so no verses or choruses, are spread over a page turn. Let's see. And then after that, it's practicing. You have to just practice it a lot so that if things start to go off the rails with your dancers, then they don't mess you up, which messes them up more. Yeah, so you can see here now in some of these places, this is a little bit better illustration, that some of these lines start like on the and before the one. So any like sort of pickup notes, here it would be like when and the I down here. So the ones are actually highlighted so that you kind of know when you're trying to reference when things happen, what you're looking at. So a few other things that are related to how you're going to do this to make it work as a dance. Um, considerations. If you are changing the tempo of a piece significantly from its original form, you may either find out that you are going to run out of air or that you can't get all the words in once you move it out of its native tempo. So be aware of that. Really take the time to see what it sounds like when you slow it down. Because I can tell you, like Icy Fire, when you do it at even 65 beats a minute, it's a brutal marathon and it does not sound good. um, and other things that you can do if you're straining are alter the vowel shape to allow you to project and sing out more. A lot of pop music tends to use very conversational pronunciation, and that can start to break down when you're trying to project in an a cappella setting. So that's a thing that you can play with. I have in the resource guide that is linked on the website a bunch of YouTube channels from vocal coaches who have a lot of clinics on this sort of thing. If you're interested, that is a great resource. And if you feel like you're really far from knowing how to do this with your voice, you can even book them for a session or two to just kind of get you on the right track. Then once you've kind of got things working and the basics in the frame are in place, then you can look at adding color to your performance with tonal shifts or distortion. And I mention this again, especially with pop music, because there's a lot of elements that are kind of not totally clean vocals that make a song feel like it does. If you want an example of how that might sound, there's a link to the Disturbed cover of Sound of Silence, and David Draymond absolutely puts on a clinic of how to use tone to shape the emotional impact of her performance, which is something that I'm really into. Maybe not everybody is, but if it's a thing that you want, that's a great resource to look at. So now we're getting to dance. And I'm gonna say that this little graphic here, I drew in the draw function of Google Keep at like 3 a.m. when I woke up and was like, I know what the chorus should look like. And what this is the first phrase in blue, the second phrase in purple, the third phrase in pink, and the fourth phrase in yellow. That was the plan. Now, since we've actually worked this out in person, this is no longer gospel. Some adjustments have been made, but this was the seed. The idea being, excuse me, that the beginning of the chorus, all of the dancers would cross and spread out into like a flame shape, which you can kind of imagine here, like being a little flame. And let's see. I have some notes for the figures as we have them, not to say they won't get adjusted, but basically the chorus is going to go out into a flame, cross back, and then do some rounds with like a 6-hand star, and then spin out. And then the figures that we have current names are Armored Peel-Off, which is a sort of like a peel-off but with arming. I have an extra box has popped up on my screen. Oh, I was hovering over something. Sorry. So it's like a peel off, but with arming. That we actually have a video clip of this one. I have clips of armor peel off and the chorus. So eyeball hay is like parallel hay while maintaining eye contact, which kind of goes with the song. And then the third figure is threes. So there'll be a 3-hand star in the center with the other 3 people casting, and then arming with their pairs for a phrase, and then the other 3 people in and the other 3 people out, and then running back home. And then the last one, which needed its own slide, reverse rounds, that everybody carries on clockwise around the set for 4 places on the first phrase, and then without turning their faces, backing up 2 places, crossing across the center by right shoulders, and then going home, which is much easier to do than it is to explain. And then we end out of a chorus. Let me stop sharing my screen here for this so that I can show the videos. And then once I do that, I will sing through the final version of the song, and then we'll do Q&A after we cut off the recording. Let me get my video up here. This is a very rough cut of Armored Peel-Off. And then here's the chorus. All you have is your fire, and the place you need to reach. Down inside, don't you ever take a demon. Always keep them on the leash. So that was a very, we practiced for about an hour, and this is what we have. So hopefully this will become much more beautiful in the future, and we will march it out as a full dance the next time we're all together again. So I'm going to just sing through the whole version of the song as altered for a Molly dance, and then we'll cut off the video and do some questions. Water. When I was a child, I heard voices. Some would sing and some would scream. Hey, you'll soon find you have few choices. I learned the voices died with me. All you have is your fire, and the place you need to reach. Down inside, don't you ever tame your demons. Always keep them on a leash. When I was a child, I'd sit for hours, staring into open flame. Hey, something in it had a power to barely tear my eyes away. All you have is your fire, and the place you need to reach. Down inside, don't you ever tame your demons. Always keep them on a leash. When I was 16, my senses fooled me. Thought gasoline was on my clothes. Hey, I knew that something would always rule me. I knew the scent was mine alone. All you have is your fire, and the place you need to reach down inside. Don't you ever tame your demons, always keep them on a leash. When I was grown, I thought it ended. When I knew love's perfect day, hey, but my peace has always depended on all the ashes in my wake. All you have is your fire, and the place you need to reach down inside. Don't you ever tame your demons, always keep them on a leash. Yeah. Yay. Also, when you don't have dancers in front of you, it is a real challenge to not speed up while doing that, which is why I had the metronome going. Yes, it is a disturbing song from the chat. I think the truth of it is in the title. All right, so that is everything that I kind of have. If we want to cut off the recording, we can take some questions.